Hello, and welcome to Rebel Stories. Rebel Stories is the podcast dedicated to celebrating the indomitable spirit of women. We believe every woman holds a powerful narrative of resilience, strength, and triumph, and we're here to share those incredible journeys. Tune in to be empowered by relatable and inspiring stories that encourage you to chase your dreams. Feel seen, heard, and understood as we validate your experiences, reminding you that you are not alone. Build your resilience with practical advice and strategies to navigate life's changes. Tonight, we are joined by Coach Sandy, who is another multi hyphenated person, being. Coach Sandy, welcome and tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Seidel. I appreciate that. Yes, multi-hyphenated is a good way to define me. I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, a certified life coach, an integrative nutrition health coach, a performance and leadership coach, and I'm also mental health first aid certified. When I explain my certifications and my title, people are a bit confused. They see coaching certifications as separate fields, but they really reflect different levels of skill and training in facilitating growth across the various facets of human thriving. So my specific combination of certifications all serve to support the same core truth. We're whole people, not just collections of separate problems that exist in a vacuum or isolation. Each certification gives, I'm sorry about that, we'll silence that, each certification gives me more clarity and tools that serve the same purpose. Which is helping people create sustainable change that honors who they truly are so they can thrive holistically, personally, professionally, and physically. So I help people gain traction on making the changes they want to make through exploration of their narratives, the stories we tell ourselves, patterns, the habits that we find ourselves making without even our awareness sometimes. I help them tap into their motivation. I help them find their confidence. And we work on communication skills and boundaries. And we also work on how to align their choices with their values, emotional well-being, and mental wellness. And finally, coaches help their clients to develop systems of accountability to ensure forward progress. So I use all of my certifications as needed to help my clients create their new chapter, whatever that looks like for them, however they define it. Each certification gives me different tools, but they all serve the same purpose.
That's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
So, since Rebel Stories is all about empowering individuals, can you share a story without revealing client details, of course, about a client who truly embraced their inner rebel spirit through your coaching and what that transformation looked like to you and to them?
Sure. Well, let's see. What I find is that what works for one person might not work for another. So it's important for us to understand ourselves deeply enough to know how to create and implement change in our lives in ways that actually work in your life. And change isn't easy for everyone. There are going to be some who can see somebody else do something and just do it, and there are others who aren't. And that's not a character flaw or weakness. Some people just simply benefit from a more personalized approach. But one specific example I can use to illustrate what this looks like when working with a client. is one who felt like she was failing because she was the sole participant in a group program that couldn't stick to rigid meal plans or exercises. She kept being told that she had to work on her willpower and that she didn't really want it, and that made her feel inadequate. So she dropped out of the program. And through our one-on-one coaching, she realized that her lack of progress was a result of her feeling completely depleted due to operating in survival mode in many areas of her life simultaneously. That left her drained and without the energy or motivation to meal plan or exercise. So we strategically decided that it would be best instead of focusing on meal planning and exercise, since she didn't have the energy, that we would focus on building self-awareness around what she needed first, holistically. So step one was helping her to develop the necessary skills to be mindful of and to advocate for her own holistic wellness at work and at home. And it didn't happen overnight, but as she worked on the plan and made progress in those other areas that were related, she gained momentum with her physical wellness as well. So the presenting problem isn't always the root of the problem. Sometimes it is a symptom of a systemic issue. One facet of our life doesn't exist in a vacuum. Many are related and interwoven, and coaches have the time to explore this with you so you can achieve the results you seek. As a coach, I hold up a mirror to my clients, not literally, but figuratively. And like makeup at the end of the day, I help them to take off the mask they've been wearing to see and appreciate and connect with their authentic selves. I listen and reflectively bring awareness to patterns they didn't realize they were entrenched in. And I help them to understand how to create new habits and ways of thinking that lead to breakthroughs and perspectives in their realities. So think of it like this. Our brains are constantly creating pathways based on repeated thoughts and behaviors. And when we keep doing the same things or thinking the same thoughts, those pathways get stronger, like walking through the woods on the same trail until it becomes a well-worn path. But when we consciously choose new thoughts and actions, we can create new pathways. And it's like forging a new trail that eventually becomes an easier shortcut to our desired destination to walk than the old one. So when clients come to me helping them to recognize the patterns and to help them to realize the limited thinking is like me asking them, why go over the river and through the woods and across the lake and around the mulberry bush when we can chart a more precise path that preserves your peace, purpose, and passion. But I find that sometimes people become so focused on meeting external expectations, what I call the shoulds, that we've lost touch with what generally energizes us. We're walking on someone else's trail instead of our own, and we don't even realize why. And I have another example. Remember working with a client who felt completely disconnected from her purpose. She felt robotic at work and in her personal life. She was focused on the shoulds, and she lost connection with her joy. So again, instead of jumping into goal setting, we spent time exploring when she felt most alive and authentic. She had this breakthrough moment when she remembered it wasn't always like this. She was able to recount with vivid detail a period in her life when she was thriving, flourishing. We just needed to identify what elements were present then and work backwards from there. So I asked her questions like, what were you doing? How were you feeling? How were you spending your time? What values were you honoring? What was different then? And with that, she stopped trying to become someone else's version of success, and she started defining success for herself. When people do that, they can build from their own foundation of what matters for them. And when we do that, it's no longer forced. It doesn't feel robotic. And that's when real sustainable change becomes possible.
That is an awful lot to process.
Yeah.
It's very engaging. It's very informative, but it made me think of something. For somebody, how would you share with somebody who would like to get started with a coach? What should one look for in a coach? Because you're giving us this information, and I know if we're talking about systemic issues, as an African American Black woman, it has been very challenging for us to reach certain spaces like this because it's viewed as not being something that we should do. What do you say to somebody who is in that space, but who would like to find a coach?
Well, I think everyone needs to find and embrace a mode of healing that feels authentic to them. You know, some people lean into spiritual or religious practices. They might want to talk to their pastor or, a deacon or minister at church. Other people lean into therapy and others into coaching and retreats. These are just a few modes of healing, and depending on the individual, these methods and more can be deeply restorative. But I think if you're interested in coaching, as a practitioner working in the space of behavioral change, mental resilience, personal growth, professional development, physical health, I think it's important to find a coach that's mental health literate, because we're talking about, you brought up the African American woman experience. Being a woman of color, it's important that your practitioner can relate to what it is that you're going through. Representation matters. And to be able to sit across from, whether it's on a Zoom conference, or a telephone call, or across from each other from a table or on a couch in a chair, it's important to be able to connect with the lived experience of another person. It's important to be able to say, I see you, I understand, I know what you're going through. And being someone who lives in a similar skin helps us to connect on those levels because we have similar lived experiences, right? But additionally, it's because it's a mental wellness space, I think being mental health literate is important. So I've received training from highly trained and credentialed mental health physicians that informs my understanding of the roles that coaches can ethically play in supporting a client's mental health. I have assessments, awareness, and knowledge that equips me to evaluate and support a client's need for guidance to a mental health clinician for specialized clinical treatment. I'm familiar with also the limitations of coaching, because yes, coaching has limitations, especially when it comes to supporting mental health. So I need to know when to consult with or refer to a mental health clinician. But I'm also very clear about my role as a coach, and I make sure that my clients are clear about it also. So to help explain this a bit, as a coach, my expertise is in supporting people who may feel overwhelmed but are generally functioning well mentally and desiring to create change in their lives as they willingly participate in developing self-awareness, build communication skills, and work towards their goals. But coaching is not therapy or clinical treatment of mental health conditions. But mental health literate coaches can provide mental health support for well-functioning populations who are receptive to coaching. And for those who are not functioning well mentally and in need of clinical treatment, like say you have depression or anxiety, that extends beyond coaching. I help connect them with qualified mental health clinicians and resources. So training is key in helping coaches recognize when someone's challenges are beyond the scope of coaching. It protects the client from well-intentioned harm and makes adequately trained coaches more effective with the proper scope of their role. So I would advise someone seeking a coach to seek someone who has received training from an accredited school, who has credentials, who can offer you experience, who can offer you expertise. And that kind of brings me to the next thing, which would be trying to help people understand the difference between marketing coaching and facilitating ethical coaching. When marketing coaching services, many coaches highlight their story, their journey, their lived experience, and how they figured it out. This is one way that prospective clients search for and find a coach whose lived experience resonates with their own. But the actual work of coaching is about creating space for clients to discover their own wisdom and their own solution. Coaches don't provide answers, or at least ethical coaching isn't providing answers. So facilitating coaching isn't about picking a coach and expecting them to have all the answers, because coaching sessions are not about the coach's expertise or life experience. It's all about the client. So a qualified coach brings the training, the tools, and the expertise to empathetically, insightfully, and skillfully guide clients towards desired outcomes. But the outcome isn't guaranteed by the coach, because the work is done by the client. Clients bring the goal, the intention, the dream, the deeply held desire, the frustrations, and the challenges. And a qualified coach uses all of this in concert with other professional tools and their clients' values and lived experiences to help the client find clarity, strategy, and a plan. Clients and coaches and the entire coaching field benefits when we're all clear about what coaching is designed to do and what it's not.
I think that was very insightful. When I have to say, I have to make a change to something I said earlier. I was speaking. I was speaking from my point of view when I said African American or Black, but I just remembered that I have friends of all different races, and for them too, it's a cultural thing that they too have not been able to either have somebody to speak to, or have it's been frowned upon from their perspective as well. So I wanted to just make sure I added that in there as well for the other cultures that
Support.
I support, and
Yes.
I omitted.
Yes, no, I absolutely understand that. But to address that, it's important to find a coach that is able to provide ethical coaching and also culturally sensitive coaching.
Right. And I think that that's very important. It's pretty much when you're finding a doctor.
Absolutely.
You want to have a doctor who is in tune with you and who you are and where you come from, so that they can give you the right advice, not something that they just came across in a book, or they have quite
Absolutely.
experience.
Yes, so there are segments of the population that have drastically different experiences than other, and it's important for your providers and practitioners to be acquainted with your experience.
So, Coach Sandy, we've asked you a few easy questions, I think, I think you deserve a hard question.
Okay, hit me with it.
Hit you. Okay, perfect. So, as a what kind of a rebel are you, and what is your kind of rebel do for fun?
What kind of rebel am I, and what does my kind of rebel do for fun? Okay, I am an intentional rebel.
Say
I
more. Say more.
Yes, I am an intentional rebel. I'm very strategic. I'm very disciplined. I'm very analytical. And if I am rebelling against something, uh, I need to understand the why. I need to understand the how, and I need to understand where I'm trying to go with it. I, as a Caribbean American woman, um, I think I'm inherently a feminist. And that's not saying that a woman is better than anyone else, but we're certainly not less than.
Mm-hmm.
So I rebel against women being treated like second-class citizens in their homes, on the jobs, in society. I think that's the kind of rebel I am.
Listen,
most certainly, yes.
I think that's a pretty good rebel to be honest with you.
Yes, thank you. I'm intimately acquainted with that experience, by the way. And additionally, what this rebel does for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are a lot of things that I like to do for fun. I am a very creative person. In addition to, I'm one of those people that operate almost equally from the left and the right side of my brain. I enjoy being analytical and collecting my data and analyzing my data as much as I do pursuing artistic and creative pursuits, as much as I enjoy being on the back of a horse in nature and painting a wall or the most complex paint by numbers kit you can find, or going for a walk in the woods by myself, or taking a yoga class or Pilates class, or enjoying a massage, or being on the beach, or traveling, spending time alone or with friends and family. I'm equally comfortable with my own company as I am with others. Yeah, these are all things I do for fun. Oh, and I love going to the market. I think that's the Caribbean in me too.
Oh, so you love a good farmer's market then?
Oh, I think that might be more than anything else that I love. Yeah, a great farmer's market. I love seeing all of the fruits and vegetables, and I want to try different things and cook them different ways and wonder what that tastes like. And I wonder if I make it this way and who makes this, and let me call this person. Yeah, I love that. I don't know, that lights me up in a different way than a lot of other things.
So that's truly an intentional rebel.
Yes. I'm an intentional rebel for sure.
I love that. Coach Sandra, thank you so much for your time today. I know that this is probably becoming my word, powerful, but I'm going to have to find a new word. It's energizing, it is infectious, and it is very intentional. We thank you for your time today and we appreciate all your knowledge. Can you just tell our listeners where they can find you? Because I'm sure everybody's going to want a little bit of more of your intentions.
Sure. And thank you so much, Seidel, for the work that you do and the positive impact that you are having in the lives of rebels and aspiring to be rebels all over the world. I salute you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. People can find out more about me at sandrasaltabuscoaching.com. They can find me on Facebook at Sandra Saltabus Coaching. That's my Facebook business page. And they can also find me on Instagram at Sandra_Saltabus. Yes. And thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I really enjoyed it.
Well, we totally enjoyed having you as part of the revolution.
Yes, rebel on.
Always.